Hello, yeah, welcome to H-Tech Web Development Bootcamp. I'm so excited to have you here. I remain Emmanuel Anago, and I'll be your instructor for the web development section. Yeah, we started this week. On the 12th was useful introduction to the group, and then people were adding. But I want to appreciate those that have referred one or two persons and still want to tell us to refer more so we can enjoy this bootcamp. It's not going to be fun when we are just few. We want people to come in and then we have a good time together. So let's look at the course outline and what we'll be covering for this 8 weeks. Now we'll be looking at the fundamentals of web development, HTML basics, CSS basics, JavaScript basics, WordPress deployment, hosting. Then we'll talk about a project, or we'll do a project. So for this week, which is our week 1, we'll be doing the introduction. We'll look at languages and tools of web development. Of course, for you to become a web developer, you must use a computer and the rest. So we need text editors and browsers. We'll also look at how the web works, what are the different stack in web development, and how do I do my learning parts. So we're looking at that. Then what are the resources on the web, HTTP and HTTPS, different types of website, what's URL, and from there we'll move to how client and server operate. So the client server model, we'll be talking about it. Like I've said, requests and responses, what is the document object model, and how can we inspect our websites using the requests that are made and responses that we get back. Are there any type of code that can tell us that something has been done successfully or something brought an error? So look at status codes and the rest, and what are the content types on the web. So from there we'll proceed to diving into HTML properly, and then CSS, and how we can actually format our code. How do we inspect our web pages using the Chrome dev tools? So one of the browsers we'll be using commonly is Chrome, and how we can validate our web pages. So for the week 2, where we'll talk about HTML full indeed, is we're looking about things in the head sections. What are the HTML entities, hyperlinks, how do I use images, how do I use videos, how do I use audios, how can I do a list, how do I do tags, working with tables, containers, HTML5, semantic elements, how do I structure a web page, and then how do I take in user input using the user input elements and then form elements, then general website layouts. So that's what we'll be covering in week 2 for HTML. Then for CSS, we'll look at how we can introduce or provide CSS to our web page. Basic selectors that are there, combination of selectors also, looking about selectors that relate to one another, elements or entities, pseudo classes, pseudo elements, how you can specify selectors for a special thing or the rest, inheritance, how styles can be inherited. So CSS is actually the styling of the website. And if you're styling websites, you need to start with colors, gradients, borders, margin, padding, shadows, heights, widths, the kind of fonts that are available. So know how to select fonts, what's the display, know how to display our websites well using flexbox and grid. Then the layout of the website, we're touching layout again, position elements on the web page. So learn that. How can we do a drop down, a navigation bar, a menu, work with forms like a registration form, login form, sign up form, those kind of things. Then input types, how do I work with buttons? In CSS have something they call CSS units and variables. Although CSS is not a programming language, it's a styling language, but the recent development has given it room to use variables. If you're coming from programming, you know what a variable is. And then we'll talk about the CSS front-end frameworks. We'll be treating one either Bootstrap or Tailwind, and when we get there, we'll know that. And we'll see how we can make our web page fit into different screens, whether you're using a laptop, a phone. So look at media queries. Media queries help us to ensure that our web page it can fit in different screens. So week 4, we then move on to JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language, is a language of the browser. So see how we can provide JavaScript to our own web page. It is used for providing functionality. So web pages that carries out when you click a button, something happens, and when you scroll, something happens. So we'll talk about how we can do that with JavaScript. Look at the syntaxes, how we can work with variables, operators, assignments, data types in JavaScript, functions. Then we move properly to the document object model, because everything on your browser is treated as a document. So if you want some kind of functionality, you must know how to work with the document, with DOM. We'll talk about DOM methods, DOM documents, DOM elements, DOM HTML, DOM CSS, DOM events. Events are actions, and then event listeners. So when we're done with week 4, we'll be moving to week 5, where it's going to be more exciting, because I believe by this time some people will be tired of coding. Programmers are lazy. But one interesting thing is that we'll learn how to build a website without coding. Just drag and drop, and we'll be using WordPress. Ha! It's gonna be interesting. So we'll learn how to use WordPress offline and online. All the necessary files that are needed, the scatter files, the accounts that is needed. You create a WordPress account, know how to work with your WP admin, appearance, plugins, and themes. Those 3 things are very important. Those things are what tell or what decide how your website will look like. So we'll know how to do our first posts, work with images and tags, and we'll be using a website builder called Elementor. So we'll talk about the Elementor basics, we'll create a blog with it, and perhaps we'll move into learning what is called e-commerce. Like people that want to, I know so many people here want to do trading, buying and selling. So you can create a website for that platform, WooCommerce, and social media optimization, where you can optimize your web pages. Then week 6, we'll move on to not really coding this time, but how we can gain space on the internet. So do domain name registration, register a name for your website, you host it, and then you ensure it is secured. That's SSL. You work with the cPanel, the backend, the file managers, and then the actual deployment. So we'll be using Netlify, which is an open source platform for deploying web pages, front-end works. So we're using Netlify, and for we to show our presence on the internet, we work with what they call GitHub. Thank God for GitHub. And then week 7 is common to all sections in this bootcamp, where we're talking about freelancing and projects. So one thing I added here is GitHub, because we are developers, we are designers, we are website builders. So we need to know what's GitHub. Then others that generally we'll be talking about is freelancer, Upwork, and Fiverr. And tips will be given to us on how we can grow our business. Then our projects. And week 8, project submission, project testing, project deployment, grading, and the most interesting part is POP there, passing out party. So those are the things we'll be doing, guys. After this 8 weeks intensive classes, you'll be ready to do expert. So I'm believing, I'm trusting God. I'm looking upon your effort to putting everything together to make it successful these 8 weeks. You need your cooperation, you need to be serious, and myself too, committed to the work, so that we can actually gain a lot. There are a lot to learn, there are a lot to know, there are a lot to cover, but I'm assuring us that after the 8 weeks, we'll have what it takes to become a standalone freelancer, or freelancer that is working in a team. So that's it. H-Tech is providing us this platform to, equip ourselves with web development skills. So before then, get yourself ready, get yourself a laptop or a computer. They'll be providing computers in the venue, but personally, I would like you to have one so that we can learn even outside class. So I remain Emmanuel, instructor for web development, and I'm happy to have you. So I will see you in class. Thank you very much.